Okay, well, it's 11 o'clock and I want to get started with Windrush at the top on Windrush Day. So recognizing 75 years of people from the Caribbean shores invited to come to the UK to help to rebuild after the Second World War. And I've had some interesting conversations with my mother who came within that window about some of the experiences of working in the UK over many, many years. So welcome to everyone. We're going to have a really fabulous time, I think, talking to some of the really senior leaders in the UK who are leading in this space. So we are going to be using Slido. So can we look at the, please give you a chance to scan Slido. So we're going to use this and we will flash this up again. So you'll be able to join as we go. We want you to add any questions. We're going to try and get those voted up. We're going to have those on screen. So if you see a question or you want to pose a question, as the panelists today are talking, there may be something you think, I really want to know that. We will try and get to as many of these as we can. So let's kick off today. I want to do just to say a few things. So the first thing I wanted to kick off with is a poll. So we are nudging almost 1,000 employers who have signed a Race at Work Charter, and some have gone straight into that question. Have you signed the Race at Work Charter? Yes, no, don't know, in the process, not sure. Let's see what the results are. So this is a charter that was established in collaboration with the government, and it was announced by the then Prime Minister in 2018 to look at how we can engage employers to make changes on race following the McGregor-Smith review in 2017, and the insight, using the insight from our Race at Work survey that the ITC has run in 2015, 2018, and 2021, showing us that progression is important and there's a real need for action by employers. So, okay, I like when I see people who are not sure and there's some no's, so that means hopefully by the end of this, you'll be like, why have not signed? Let me just get on with this. Okay, next slide, please. So the case for action, I think it's clear, but I think it's really important that this is continually made, that we keep making the case for action in our organizations. Why? Because some people will think, why are we even discussing this? So we know if economic recovery is inclusive, it will speed it up. It will be much quicker if everybody is using their gifts and talents to help to the UK recover. We know from the McGregor-Smith review that year on year, 24 billion was a potential economic boost if all the racial disparities in the labour market are tackled. We know through the McKinsey study, 3 of them that have been done so far, that organizations who have more diversity at that top table have better financial returns. And we at BITC have been working with professors from Queen Mary and Birmingham University to look at the Race at Work insight that we gathered in 2015, 2018, and 2021. And we found that even when people progress to senior levels, there are pay disparities. Hence why we are delighted that the government have published voluntary guidance, but we really would like to see this become mandatory, because transparency on pay, particularly in the cost of living challenges, absolutely important. We all want to know we're getting the right pay. And then recent analysis of the ONS census data shows that 9.3% of the working age population are from an ethnically diverse background in England and Wales. That's almost 1 in 5. So absolutely want pay transparency and enable everyone to work. And then the pyramid, which is 1 in 4, it used to just say primary and secondary school, but also now higher education, 26% are from diverse backgrounds. So people are doing the work to get to those levels. And as I say, 1 in 10 when we look at leadership on the top table. So next slide, please, Florence. So Race at Work Charter, we are nudging 1,000 employees now, and this is based on data that was captured, and I'll share some shift points where we've seen significant shift since the charter was established in 2018 with 85 employers. that number one, leadership at the top table, executive sponsor for race, leading that conversation, ensuring that it stays on the top table. Second, using data, capturing ethnicity data and using data to inform your decisions, to decide what you want to target. Do you need to make bespoke plans? And being as transparent as you can, not only on pay, but on progression, on attraction, recruitment, and access to opportunity. The third commitment is zero tolerance on bullying and harassment. So ensuring that's a conversation being had at the top table. And we had to strengthen that in 2021 because we saw that not only was it not good in the workplace, but customers and client service users as well. Managers being part of the action, taking action to ensure all opportunities are spread across their teams. Progression, we've been tracking this for years. We know 70% of people from diverse backgrounds want to progress. And then we added allyship, following George Floyd murder, everybody on the streets. We added questions in the 2021 survey, which showed allyship absolutely wasn't just some flash in the pan pandemic phenomena. It's in the workplace, and we need leaders, allies to be mobilized. And then number 7, something we've been tracking for years, which is supply chain and the need for inclusion, because actually role models are something that are desired from school, higher education, in the workplace, and actually enabling business leaders to rise up and be leaders in the community and be role models as well as leaders in the workplace is how we're going to get there. Next slide, please. So just a few things that have shifted. We've seen a shift in executive leaders. So this isn't from our big race at work survey. This is, your voices, employee voices say, yes, I can see somebody at the top table. That moved from 33% to 44%. We've seen a shift in more employers capturing their data between 2018 and 2019, shift to 19%. I talked about strengthening the charter to look at customers and clients as well as the workplace. That's about the inclusive culture. How can you thrive if you feel like this is horrible here and, people treat me horribly? So that's really important. And then allyship has been added, supply chains. And then we have a Race at Work Charter. Our Race at Work Charter survey is open. The deadline was last Friday, actually, but there are some people who are in the middle. So we've extended the deadline to the 7th of July. So really encourage you, if you haven't done that yet, you need to go to the BIDC website and jump on that, get your link. And some of you have already got links in your junk mail and all sorts of things. Please follow that through and fill out the survey. Next slide, please. So this survey, as I say, there's an opportunity for feedback, bespoke feedback report, and a presentation from one of our advisors at BITC if you fill out the survey. So a real great opportunity. And we ran this in 2019 and 2020, and we'll be looking at comparative trends. Next slide, please. So we put in out a infographic today celebrating Windrush at the top, and you'll see just a snapshot here. You'll be able to pick this up on social media, but on average across the key industries in the UK, where we could find data is 1% are from a Black background, despite, as I said, the census now showing 4% of people in England and Wales are from a Black background. So you see there is a disparity, but we're delighted that you're going to hear from some of that 1%, and they all happen to be women who are at the top tables of some of our industries. So we haven't included some of the industries where we couldn't find data, but we will be on a quest to find that so we can surface that and then think about what do we do to make change for the future. Next slide, please. So some things that we tell you, so just dropping some things here, engaging senior leaders in two-way mentoring, publishing your pay gaps, sponsorship, stretch assignments, inviting people to have a seat at the table, remembering 29%. This is a huge disparity in 2014 that we found around mental health, particularly with Black women, and that was in 2014. So if you think about the pandemic and all of the disparities that exist, employers need to be mindful of that. And then there's a huge thing around getting credit for your ideas, because how can you progress if somebody else nicks your ideas and nicks the credit? So really important to make sure that's correctly attributed. And we know from our Black Voices report that Black people, be it male or female, were less likely to say that they got credit for their ideas. Next slide. So we're going to talk to back to Slido. So please use Slido. Put any questions as we're talking that you think, oh, I'd really like to find that out, and we'll vote them up, hopefully, and we'll try and cover them. So I want to invite our fabulous panel this morning to come and join me. So we've got Claire Kamara, who is Chief People Officer from Essex Mediacom, Camille Drummond, Senior Vice President, Global Business Services, BP, and Carmen Watson, Chair of Pertemps Network Group. And these aren't women with just titles. They have very powerful roles, and we're going to hear about them. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation this morning. So let's start that conversation. So let's hear the first question. So can we take the slide down so we can see all the beautiful faces? And let's have the panel spotlighted. So what I want to hear first, and I'm going to start with you, Camille. What is your connection to the Windrush Generation?
Hi, Sandra, and thank you for inviting me today. So my name is Camille Drummond. I'm the SVP for Global Business Services here at BP. And my connection to the Windrush Generation, I'm of Jamaican Caribbean heritage. Both my parents were born in Jamaica and came over as part of the Windrush era. My father came as an 18-year-old to the country, and on my mother's side, it was my grandparents that came first, my grandfather, then my grandmother, and then they sent for their children. And my mother came over at 12 years old. So yes, both sides of my family are from the Windrush, or came across to the UK as part of the Windrush Generation.
Fabulous, thank you, Camille. Claire, what about you? What's your connection to the Windrush Generation?
Hi, Sandra, thank you. So thank you for this opportunity. So my mum and dad, my mum is from Dominica and my dad St. Lucia. But I'm going to share a little story about my mum. My mum came over from Dominica at the age of 20 in November in the early 60s, and she arrived. She left on the 10th of November and arrived on the 28th. I have to share that because she insisted I share with you that her boat, which was called Columbia, was 8 days faster than the other boats, and she paid a little bit more just to get to the UK a little bit faster. And yeah, and just one other little fact, I found out talking to her over the weekend that her very first job was at Marks and Spencer, which is where I started my career. And I only found this out on Saturday when I was chatting to her to just get a little bit more about kind of her early years in the UK. So that's me.
Couldn't make that up, can't
no,
connection to the Windrush Generation.
Well, again, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this. I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's stories. My connection is my father was Jamaican, and he came here in the early 50s. My mother is white British, and that in itself was a challenge back in the 50s. But also my husband of 28 years, his parents came over in the Windrush era, and like a lot of Jamaican families made a huge sacrifice because all the children were left behind. Because what happened is the parents tended to come over, get work, and then settle. So my husband didn't actually come here until he was 8 years old. So yes, I'm fully aware of the sacrifices that were made at that time.
Fabulous, thank you, Carmen. And my mum came at 25 years old in 1959, and said she came on Friday and she was working by Monday. She said there were vacancies everywhere. She said even when you just walked into a job, and I've watched her and I watched my father work all their lives. So fabulous. Okay, so let's come back to Camille. Camille, what do you do in your day job, and what do you enjoy about it?
Great, thanks, Sandra. So what do I do? So as I said, I'm the Senior Vice President for Global Business Services. What does that mean? I run BP's business service operations, which is a large global team of 6,000 employees that report to me. And we manage most of BP's finance, procurement, customer, HR services globally for all of our businesses. And what do I enjoy about it? I mean, I love my job. I feel quite privileged that I have a role at such a senior level in the organisation that I love and enjoy. fundamentally because I've got a great diverse team. My team are based in Malaysia, in India, in Hungary, in South Africa, and Mexico. So I have this wonderful, diverse team. I get to report to BP CFO. He gives me full accountability to do my job. So I get to drive the strategy around what we do as an organisation. And no 2 days are the same. So when you run a global organisation, there's always something going on. Every single business needs us. So you're in at the action. And I just love that opportunity to run a great team and make a big difference. So that's what I love about my job.
Fabulous. Thank you, Camille. Claire, let's continue. You're global too. Tell us about what you do in your day job and what do you enjoy about it?
Thank you. So my role is Global Chief People Officer at Essence Mediacom, which is one of the kind of most successful media agencies across the globe. We have 10,000 colleagues across 126 different territories. We should coordinate, Camille. Maybe we might meet in a country somewhere if we could kind of link up. Yeah. We work with a fantastic stock of brands: Coca-Cola, Google, Richemont, who do Cartier, Uber, Tesco, to name a few. My role at the most basic level is creating an environment and conditions for everyone to do their best work and fulfill their potential. Yeah, so that I feel is kind of like my kind of back pocket that I've taken everywhere. In terms of kind of what I love finding potential where people perhaps didn't think it existed, or just bringing newness into the industry and the organization. And I kind of like, you know, if you talk to me and you kind of have an interest in a career, I find people everywhere, be it the nail shop, be it the hairdresser, be it in a restaurant. So that I love that about my role, and the opportunity to kind of put a bit of purpose into the power that I have, and gratitude for doing such a brilliant job and working with such a great team. So that's me.
Fabulous, Claire. So Carmen, tell us about what you do in your day job and what you love about it.
Oh, how long have you got? Well, I'm chair of Pertemps Network Group, and for those listening who don't know who we are a recruitment company fundamentally. We're £1 billion turnover. We have 200 branches in the UK. We employ up to 40,000 people at any one time, and we place 12,000 people into permanent jobs each year. I've been with the company since, well, pretty much it started when it had 2 branches. So I've actually come up through the ranks, and it was in the 80s when I was invited to become a commercial director, and it was like, little on me. Yeah, but I became commercial director, then moved to be MD, then became chair of some of the subsidiary companies before taking up the post of chair of the whole group. So I've got an interesting dynamic going on, because having been around for a long time, I've obviously nurtured lots of internal and external relationships, which still go on to this day. But I suppose my main job is chairing a board of very experienced directors, working alongside them to position the strategic direction of the company, ensure we've got the appropriate governance in place, and also to make sure that our stakeholders, and by stakeholders, I don't mean shareholders, I mean our customers, our candidates, our suppliers, our own employees and the communities are all served well. What I love about that is I fell into recruitment based on my love of people and just forming my own sort of community. And really, everything that we do within our role is either improving someone's lives by finding them a job or bettering the job that they're in, helping companies to be more profitable and successful through people and productivity, and more importantly, helping our local communities to thrive. And I really enjoy that aspect.
Thank you, Carmen. So, Camille, coming back round to you, why are you a member of the BITC Race Leadership Team? You're all so busy, so I'm going to come round to you. Why are you? So this doesn't have to be a long answer, but I do want to know, why are you part of that?
Yeah, so I think I joined in January this year, so I've not been a long-standing member, but the main reason I joined was because, I mean, I truly believe one organisation, you can be doing great work within one organisation, but the power of the change that's needed is collectively. And so the opportunity to meet with others with the same mindset and the same agenda is very powerful for me. So taking what we're doing, learning from others, that ability to work collectively, that's why I wanted to join. And I've been to a couple of meetings already. And as you know, Sandra, I've been quite active. And so, yeah, finding that partnership and that cohesion around what we're trying to achieve has been really important.
Absolutely, Camille, and you're working in our kind of sweet spot where we really want to stretch organizations with commitment 7 around supply chain and engagement, and not just saying it, but really bringing it to life to change lives. Over to Claire, why are you part of the BITC?
Well, on a personal level, I'm Claire, who grew up in Hounslow, who was raised by a single mum. And I was really lucky to have some incredible mentors and support. And I think that if I can do it, then I think that BITC and some of the work that the team are doing across all the organisations gives an opportunity for everyone to thrive. I love this quote. I think it's from Hillary Clinton, which is, "Talent is everywhere and opportunity is not." And I think that, you know, at the heart of everything that we do within the leadership team, it's creating those conditions for opportunities that will, as Carmen has said, change individuals' lives, contribute significantly to the many organisations that are listening here, but also make a massive difference within the community, and also change families. I know in our family, my role, my brother's role, has fundamentally shifted so much within the whole of our family. And I think that it's really, really important to me. Yeah, so, I mean, I can stop there. I can go on and on as to why, but, you know, an incredible group of people. And, you know, it's better that we come together, because it doesn't often happen, than actually try to do this in isolation. I often wonder, 75 years ago, if BITC existed, what would my mum be doing? And that's what I'm kind of wanting to make sure that we can just create those opportunities there.
Fabulous. So, Carmen, you've been on the leadership team.
My story is slightly different, isn't it? So I am busy. I still keep a very operational interest in an activity in what's going on. So Sandra contacted me and said, "Oh, could you have a coffee?" "No, I'm busy, thank you, but no." "Could you give me half an hour? And I want to just share some information on race with you. And if it's of no interest, then fine, I've achieved my goal. But let's see how we go." So I gave her that half an hour. And that half an hour was 16 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm still involved. I can't get out now. But it's just incredible. I think, first of all, we have to say that the work that Sandra does with the support of BITC is crucially important. And 16 years ago, we hoped that we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't need it, but clearly we do. But it's valuable. I think the independence of the organisation and of Sandra really does help organisations to be challenged. So I'm still a member for a lot of reasons, and trying to sort of keep it short. I value the information that we get. So that's the toolkits, because I find that really does challenge your thinking. I value the data we get, because we record all of our statistics, but we need a benchmark to know, are we doing, you know, we think we're doing really well, are we? So we find that is enormously helpful. Also the training, having that independence of the training on top of the inclusivity training we do ourselves, having the BITC training has been really, really helpful. And we've delivered that across our board through all of our senior management team. But what am I most proud of, really? That would be the project work that we've done. I haven't got enough time to go into it all now, but, you know, all those years ago, there were 700,000 young 16 to 24-year-old people unemployed. And from a little conversation that I had saying, how do we know what their issues are? Because look around the table, which one of us is age 16? What was born from that is a youth board. We set up a youth board with major employers guaranteeing employment for those youngsters that were involved, at least giving them work experience to help their CVs and put them on the right track. And these are people very, very far from the recruitment market who've now gone on to work in major corporations, strategic directors of, you know, various companies, or they've set up businesses on their own. When you see them, the pride that you have knowing you've been part of that. And I think on the back of that, then came the cross-mentoring for people who are in work but are struggling to progress. So I was personally involved in 6-month mentoring programs for some of those people. Colleagues in our organisation have taken over now and they're doing it. But the number of organisations that are involved in that, and 13 years later, that cross-mentoring programme is still running. I feel proud about that too. And I also think, I could go on, but my other final point is, you know, ages ago, Sandra encouraged me to go on a seeing is believing visit. We all think we know what the problems are. We all think that we understand, and that's a genuine feeling. When you go out and you really do see how people are living, the challenges that they have, etc. Oh my goodness me, it's a massive call to action. And I know that I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not been involved with BITC. So I would just say to anybody that's listening, join, because it's hugely valuable and rewarding.
And you'd have thought that I paid these people.
You owe me.
It's all true. Memory lane. So our cross-organizational mentoring circle program, I think we're running 2 cohorts a year now. You know, what's come out consistently from Camille, Claire and Carmen is the collective action. So what one business can't do, so we've had that collective support to even launch the first Race at Work survey and subsequent ones, that insight which have changed the game, because it's evidence-based that we can see, right, here are the challenges and here are they from different groups. And then come the only thing that you did miss out, which, hello, you did talk for a while, was after the SIB, after the SIB, was the unemployed mentoring circles that we did with
all yes
people. And DWP have adopted that method that we piloted through the Seeing is Believing visit. So really encourage you as leaders online, find out, you can just connect with your advisor, relationship manager. If you think, oh, I haven't heard about Seeing is Believing, it is for senior leaders and it is life-changing.
It is.
Get together, see the change and collectively say, what are we going to do to shift the dial on this? So let's get into more about you, because that's what everyone's here to hear about. So Camille, what would you say is the greatest opportunity and challenge that you faced in your career? And I know there'd be loads of them, but try and think, you'd say, what would be the greatest opportunity?
The greatest opportunity and greatest challenge. So I'm gonna talk more generically about what was my greatest challenge, and then how I think I turned that into being an opportunity for me. So obviously I'm a Black female. My parents came over as part of Windrush. I grew up on a council estate. The narrative is that I shouldn't be where I am today, right, with that background. And I think one of my greatest challenges was this preconceived notion that I wasn't either capable or experienced enough to do the role. And with a name like Camille Drummond, people wouldn't necessarily know I was Black. So I used to be quite amused by the fact that I'd turn up to meetings and people were surprised, and you could see the surprise in their face, and then, you know, the preconceived notions and biases kicked in. But I would say, for me personally, I didn't ever take that as negative. I use that as my greatest opportunity, because I use that to motivate me to prove them wrong. And so in everything I've done throughout my career, if I've seen that bias or that preconceived notion, it motivated me to show them and demonstrate that I can do what you think I can't do here. And that's always been a great opportunity for me, because I think I've always been able to surprise. And I've used that to help me progress through my career. And I think what's been lucky for me is that people have given me that opportunity. So I love Claire's quote, there's lots of talent, but not enough opportunity. And I think people don't give individuals the opportunity. They have that preconceived notion, and then they don't provide the opportunity. I have been lucky to be allowed to prove myself. And then I've always taken that challenge up. And I got a buzz out of, you thought I couldn't do this, and look, I've smashed it. Yeah. So for me, greatest challenge has always been kind of the perception I couldn't do, but I've used that for the opportunity to show and demonstrate, and then that's always served me well throughout my career.
I hear you, Camille. You're talking about Sandra Lennon, so you can imagine the surname like Lennon as a maiden name, how I disarmed people. Through the door, they're like, oh, you're not related to John. I said, oh, no. That was my life. That was my life. Any relation to John? It's like, no. Claire.
Brilliant. So I think my greatest opportunity, so I started as, you can probably see on my LinkedIn, my career in kind of retail, Marks and Spencer, etc. And then I got a call, and I thought I was doing really well. I was really happy. I was doing really well. And I got a call to work on London 2012. And I was absolutely petrified. And I thought, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. And I remember on the brink of tears talking to my brother, David, who said, Claire, there are times when you've got to take the bravery pill. Yeah, you've got to do it, and you've got to take it. And I think I haven't looked back since that moment when David said, take the bravery pill, which is why I'm probably doing the job I'm doing now and the other things there. So I think that has been, London 2012 was one of my greatest honours and opportunities to kind of work on from, a cast of like 100 to up to 200,000 across in terms of the workforce. So that was brilliant. In terms of my greatest challenge, a bit like you, Camille, I suppose, I'm used to now being the only one, the only one in the room, the only one in a massive meeting, the only one. And I think that my reality is that I have to keep challenging myself and my confidence, Claire from Hounslow sitting in this, that I belong here and I can actually do, and I do have opinions, and I absolutely deserve this because I've worked really hard to get where I am today. So I think I'm not going to pretend it's always an easy kind of road, but I think that is my constant challenge, but also opportunity to make things easier for others throughout the organisation by nature of what I do. I think my other kind of greatest challenge, which is a little bit of a personal one that, if you don't mind, I'd like to share, is being able to stand up to individuals where behaviours, a lack of inclusion, being a bit exclusive has not enabled me to deliver on my role. It was it's not this particular job, but quite early in my career. And I think that has stood me in good stead. But what I did learn was the wisdom to be able to challenge when people can hear you, as opposed to challenge when you feel it's appropriate. So I think that for me has been my greatest gift and greatest challenge. It's still scary and it will continue to be, but I think that pushing that out is one of those things that I want to continue to do. That's me.
Carmen.
Pretty similar, I think, in many ways. I've always had 3 challenges since the day I started work. Barriers, probably I would call them: age, being female, and ethnicity. because in the environment that I've been in, years ago, the employment market was very different to what it is now, shall we say, and people had very prescribed ideas of who they wanted to recruit and what those people needed to look like and sound like and live, and so on. So a bit like you, Sandra, I would take a brief, and then because we operate ethically and within the law, I would say, let me come down and see you. I'd walk through the door, they go, oh. So, and all throughout, when I join the boards now, when I go to meetings with various chairs, a bit like Claire was saying, I'm kind of the only one in the room. So it's kind of followed me through, really. But I think it's, I would probably say I have developed coping mechanisms, and I'll come on to that when we're sharing with people some hints and tips, so I'll not go into that now. But I would probably say to this day, I still suffer with imposter syndrome. Even though I know from metrics and everything else that I'm good at what I do, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. And I still say, should I really be here? And then crack on and make sure that I satisfy myself that I am in the right place.
Yeah,
that's me.
No, and I think all of us at some point, and I love when Camille was talking about disarming people, and there's a theme here about disarming people, because they're like, oh, and then you win them over, and the rest is history, as they say. So let's talk about this winning people over, because we know through our Race at Work survey that and we've been tracking since over 10 years actually, but definitely since 2015, mentors, sponsors, allies. We know no matter how fabulous you are, there are rooms you're not in. Somebody needs to open that door. So anybody want to share? So let's go with you, Camille. Is there anybody that you say, yeah, I definitely had somebody who I believed helped or supported or whatever? You don't have to name them if you don't want to, but was there somebody's in your past that you'd say, or even now?
Going to me first?
Yes. Oh, yes. So
Yes, me first.
There is a pattern, as you can see. I'm trying to.
Yes, this is a pattern. Yes. So for sure, and I'm happy to name the person. So it was my previous boss. He was the CFO of BP. I've worked for him on and off for a long time, but there is no doubt in my mind he was one of my biggest sponsors and advocates. He challenged me. He put me into roles like head of strategic planning and performance, which is a role that supported the leadership team of BP, which I, similar to Claire, was petrified when he asked me to do it. And I didn't really want to do it. And no was not an option from his, you can do this, Camille. But he supported me. He never, ever left me hanging. So if I'd go into a room and do a presentation, he'd jump in if I needed that support and help. I often wondered why he had taken me under his wing and sponsored me. I think he saw my abilities, but also I think he could relate. He grew up in Liverpool and had a council background himself and could relate a little bit, and just saw that potential and was just open to helping and supporting me. And I'm forever grateful. But it wasn't just him. I've had other sponsors as well, but there's no doubt me being where I am today, his support and help has been invaluable. And I think you do need that. I had to earn it, right? So, you don't just get sponsors because they like you. You perform, they see your potential. That's really important. But the power of having them support you once they're on board is amazing.
Absolutely. Claire, what about you? Anybody you think particularly seminal?
Thank you. So there's a lady called Jean Tomlin, who was the HR director of Marks and Spencer. And she was a Black woman, the first senior Black lady that I worked with. And I think that Jean was very supportive, very demanding, very high standards, but very, very supportive. And I think the opportunity is all you need. Yeah. And I think that what she gave me and continues to give me is opportunity, support, and that kind of lifelong mentorship, which I think is really important. I've got one more, if you don't mind, which is a lady called Trudy Ryan. So Trudy was my coach. And Trudy asked me a question that I've never really stopped to ponder, which is kind of, who are you? She said, and I was like, what do you mean? And she said, no, who are you? And I never really spent time thinking about who I am as Claire, because I've been a bit of a chameleon, you know, I'll fit in, I'll mold and I'll develop, but I really went on quite a journey to really just understand who I am and what sort of leader I want to be, and kind of what kind of woman I want to be within the workplace, Black woman within the workplace. So again, forever grateful to Trudy for that as well.
Fabulous. Carmen.
Yes, I've had sponsors and mentors. As you're all picking one, I will pick out the one that I think propelled my career the most, and that's the former founder and chair of Pertemps, a gentleman called Tim Watts. Most people will have heard of him in some way, shape or form or the other. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying that I actually, for many years, saw him more of a tormentor than mentor, because everything I did was challenged. The business case had to be rock solid. When you thought that you got something, you know, as near perfect as you could get it, stretch it another 10%, you know, and all of that. And there were times when, frankly, well, I'll stop there. I really could have, you know, done some damage. But it turned out it was the best support, because it is support, the best support I could ever have had, because lots of people supported me in different ways, in nice ways, but the biggest learn came from those challenges. And I would definitely say that enhanced my performance. He was the one who saw in me the potential to do what I do before I even knew it myself. So, you know, unlike a lot of people who would aspire to a role and then, you know, seek out the people that can help them, I was quite happy where I was, frankly. I was having the best time of my life. But he said, no, you're too comfortable there. You need to move and spread the love, you know, and get other people to do what you've done. So, yeah, I would say he was absolutely the one who was propelled and supported my career. And a bit like Camille said, he still does today. And likewise, I'm eternally grateful too.
Yeah, I have a long list, and you know, but I think similarly it would be Sir Nicholas Montague, who was chairman of the Inland Revenue. I was doing secretariat at the Cabinet Office at the time, and he's like, Sandra, you know, and opened doors in the future for me, as well as Andrew Callender, who's my predecessor in this role, saying when the opportunity was coming up, why are you not going for it? You're going to be fabulous. And because of that, housing stay, me, are you sure me? She's like, go for it. Well, she was already fabulous, and that gave me confidence. Okay, so maybe I could do this. And as they say, many years later, here we are. So I haven't seen any questions from clients yet, so I'm going to keep going because I'm really enjoying this. I have a few more questions on my list. So I don't want us to miss out tips for employers. So you have navigated that top to that top. If you get a chance, you know, and here's a chance, what would you say leaders would need to think about? What things would you advise them? And is there a nuance that they need to think about for their Black employees and Black women, if you've got any advice on that? So Camille, coming to you.
Yeah, so as I reflect back, and we've just talked about who sponsored, propelled your career, etc. All of mine sponsors and mentors didn't look like me. They were all white males, right? And so I was very fortunate that I was able to get sponsorship from individuals that didn't look like me, because often I think we see that as a challenge. And so one of my tips for leaders, and I always say this to them, honestly, just go and do this exercise. Go and look honestly, who have you supported, mentored, sponsored? Write them down and have a look at your list. Is it a diverse list or not? And if it's not, and you've never had somebody in there, because it is quite easy to be feel more affiliated to someone that looks like you, has the same interests. Open up your mind to sponsor somebody else and someone different, and the people that have sponsored me all gave me that opportunity, and it comes back to, are you giving opportunity to everyone equally and fairly? And if you follow that own exercise and look, you can ask yourself honestly, have I been doing that or not? And if I haven't been doing that, then am I going to change? And I'm going to change that list. So that would be a tip for leaders. I've got other tips for employers around what you can do more specifically, but just for leaders for now, I would definitely say, go do that exercise. You might surprise yourself that you're not actually being as equal and fair and open as one would expect you to be.
Fabulous. Claire, let's go with the leaders. What tips would you go give?
I think that there's something around kind of really acknowledging where you are in your learning and your journey. Yeah. So really kind of educating yourself and improving your knowledge and being really honest, I think is really important. And understanding what it means to be inclusive before you welcome diversity, because there's absolutely no point in, you know, being diverse if you don't understand the power of being inclusive. So that would be my kind of one tip for all leaders.
Carmen?
I've got a few. I think over and above having all the right policies, procedures in place, that's a given. I think you've got to create the right environment, and I think it comes from the leader. Letting people know that this is a place where they can not just survive, but thrive. I think making really, really clear statements right from the top that no isms are accepted, sexisms, racisms, religiousisms, any isms. And I also think, and it's behaviour, it's not just saying those things, it's how you behave, how you are treating people day to day, how you are getting to understand people from different cultures or whatever. And I think the big thing as well is recognising really good work. Go back to my earlier situation. I was good at what I did, but it actually took somebody to seek me out and tell me that I was good at what I did. I mean, it sounds ridiculous now, but I do spend my time finding people in our business that fall into the cohort we're talking about today. And I tell them, well, I tell them the other way if that's not right as well, but I support people and tell them, because often they don't know. And then finally, I think it's that recognition publicly, because even though you may have one person, the leader, who is doing all of that, you actually need your whole of your management structure, practice, employing that good practice, because you can't physically get round to everybody. So I think the leader sets the tone at the top, has the message out there that this is the place that you can survive and thrive. But then I think it's the training and the support of the line management to ensure that that is spreading across the organisation and it becomes a habit.
So thank you for this. And I've been looking at the Slido questions, and you've really touched on what leaders, what some of the challenges are, what employees and leaders can do. I want to pick up, anybody want to pick up the question around, and we've all touched on it, I think, a bit, imposter syndrome. What do you do to get over it? And it's that bit around track record. Hello, got here already, done these things. Everyone else is saying I'm fabulous. Let me just believe it and embrace it. Yeah, there's that. But also it talks about, there's questions around menopause and potentially any tips on that. And also I saw another one around families, parenting. Anybody want to pick up any of those questions? Just jump in. If any of those you think, oh, I've got a little story there, or I've got some tips there. So we've all touched on this imposter syndrome. How have you got over it? Because you have got over it. You are where you are. We've all talked about that voice. How have you kind of overcome that? Because that would really help people, I think, drive their own careers. I'm
happy to share my learns. I'm not quite sure it directly feeds into the imposter syndrome, but it certainly helps. I think you reach a point where you've accepted that people think you're good, and you put into a position. And common with Claire and Emile, I was scared stiff at every time my role was growing. I was scared stiff as well. But I just deployed, I think 4 things came into my mind really. I just kept reminding myself of them. You've got to have integrity. And that integrity is around, it's going to get tough at times. You've got to stick to your conviction. And I think Claire kind of alluded to that earlier. But it's important to be honest with yourself and honest with the people around you and stick to those strong moral principles. I think authenticity is really important as well, because none of us want to have a role and progress in a role and have to be somebody else in order to execute it. So I think it's really important to know who you are, be comfortable around who you are. And over years, I mean, I would say my dress sense has changed enormously, but the person inside hasn't. I'm still fundamentally who I am. And I do think, and also it's quite important, because as you get higher, that becomes more important. People are looking to you to understand the real you, so that they know any messaging you're giving out to them is real and they can attach to it. I think the other thing that's helpful is resilience. You can't take on the world. I know through doing the mentoring groups, people were, I want to be this, and I've seen other people promoted to that, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. Well, frankly, you can't. I think if you try to take on the world, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to burn out fairly quickly. So I think it's understanding your zone of influence. I think it's knowing the decision powers that you have and those that you don't. Leaving those that you don't to one side and concentrating on the really important things that help you and others. And I think the other thing is, which maybe does play to the imposter syndrome point, is developing that ability to cope with uncertainty. Because I think as you go through your career, whether you reach the top or you don't, the one thing you can almost be guaranteed is there are going to be periods of uncertainty and times where you feel like carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And sometimes when you are in those senior roles, people look to you for answers to questions that you don't know the answers to. At that time, it's not the end of the world. And I think developing ways of coping with that can definitely help you in your career and sustaining the positions that you're in, but it's enormously helpful to the people that you're bringing up with you.
Fantastic, thank you. Can I just build on that? So there's a book that I love, which is called New Power by Hyman and Timms, and it's a different style of leadership, which is a authentic, softer, different leadership. And I think that for me, that helped me actually find my own way. So I don't have to Carmen's point, mirror what I see. I can find my own way and be confident in my own way. The other thing, sorry, I'm sounding like, is Originals. This book called Originals by Adam Grant. And I think that, like, you know, there are things when you're sitting around the table, the room, the boardroom, that only you know, only you can do. Yeah. And I think it's just about hanging on to that. And sometimes, you know, it still happens today. I walk into a meeting room, I don't say a word. Yeah, but I'm listening. And I think that, you know, that I think is my superpower, to be able to listen. And I think it's just understanding that, you know, those imposter syndrome days still do come. I'm having a little bit of one now, but, you know, the reality is we're human. And I think that, you know, your authentic self and your human self will always trump everything beyond kind of like, you know, the tick list of what it is to be successful. So anyway, so that would be my my build on that, which I think is really important.
So we're gonna have to come down for a landing. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, a few minutes left. I want everybody to give me top 3 tips for driving your own career. We're gonna start with Camille. We're gonna have to keep it short. We've got about 5 minutes. Camille, top tips. What would you tell people? And you might even have one or whatever. What would you say is really important?
Yeah, so fundamentally performance is there. Without that, you can't progress. And everyone we've heard today talk about how brilliant they were in their roles. So performance is fundamental to that. But what I would say is once you know that and you get over your imposter syndrome, you're great at what you do, then you've got to own your own career right? You've got to get out there. You've got to understand who you are. What are your gaps, and what do you need to do to fill those gaps? I often hear that it's everyone else's problem and there's issues and everything. Own it. If you're in a situation whereby you're not getting the opportunities, go find a company that's better, that offers the opportunity. Own it for yourselves and push through, and be bold, and that's how you're going to progress, because someone's not going to hand it to you on a plate. It just doesn't work like that. So that would be my...
Love it. Claire?
Love it. All of what Camille has just said, plus I suppose, how do I develop myself? Constantly learning, watching, viewing. What's my contribution to this team? What am I going to do to make this team better and win and be successful? And then asking myself the question around kind of, if I leave tomorrow, what have I left in this organization? What's my thing? And it could just be that I've helped somebody succeed, or I've kind of done something that's actually made a difference. So those would be my kind of, those are the questions that I ask myself that have helped me so far.
Fabulous. Carmen?
All of the aforementioned, totally agree.
Absolutely.
But I think at a very basic level, I would say set your own pace. Know when to do and know when to walk away, because sometimes we don't clock that. Use your resource sensibly, and I would say put your energy into things that stack up as high importance on the list of things to do, because through mentoring lots and lots of people, I see that they are busy, really busy, but are they busy doing the right things?
Yeah.
I mean, so much wisdom on this panel today. I have enjoyed myself so much. And as you can see on the BITC Race Leadership team, we're having a lot of fun as we are trying to use collective power to change the world, to make a difference, to leave a legacy. We're having fun as we do it. And I am privileged to work with these fabulous women who are at very senior levels, as I say, when we look at that Windrush infographic, which you can look out for on social media, they're in that 1%. And I'm inspired and I'm not even trying to progress. So those of you online who are like, I want to progress, listen to the wisdom, everything resonated. There's nothing that I heard today that I thought, what's that about? I was like, gosh, I think I've been through everything. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Carmen Watson for her years of service on the leadership team, Claire Kamara, who has been absolute kind of stalwart support for the campaign, and the lovely Camille, who, let's watch this one for the future, because I think more coming out, the thing that we need to challenge and break through on is how can we ensure those who maybe not in the workplace, but actually want to run their own businesses, be it micro, can grow from that to survive and thrive, and that we can really make sure commitment 7 isn't one that people tick gingerly and don't know what they're doing, but actually fabulous stories come out. So I know you're also applauding virtually for this presentation today. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the panel. Thank you all for listening and for the questions, really interesting. And we're going to try and pick up some of those questions in some Q&A, and there is a kind of roundtable for diverse women coming up in September, I believe. So we can pick up some questions there, and we're looking to share the insights from the Race at Work Charter Survey in October. So thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed today. Have a safe day, and whatever you're doing, enjoy the sunshine and the weather.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Thank you. Thanks, Sandra. Thank you. Take care.